Blessed morning, collective. This is an utterly compelled, random reading that I'm about to pull. A message, whatever emerges. The energy has shifted in a powerful way. And as the new moon energy bleeds in, it's mixing with everything. The full moon energy, actually, I still feel. It's still a part of the environmental cocktail that has formed around us, which has been supercharged. The combination of that with Lionsgate has just added potency and duration. It's a cocktail. It is exactly the same effect as a cocktail of drugs, in that they play off of one another, and the combination of certain drugs with other drugs increases their potency tenfold. It increases the duration. It increases the amount that is able to flow through. It's all of these things happening energetically, and it is potent. It is very likely that anxiety will be felt, that overwhelm will be felt. This is a powerful opportunity to embrace those things, embrace those sensations as part of what is. Recognize first there's the feeling of them. There is perhaps the natural characterization of them as frightening or scary or something that feels wrong or bad. That's okay. Accept all of that. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Notice the breath as often as possible. Return to the breath. The breath is always happening in the now. It's always an anchor to the present. You can only breathe now. You can't breathe future or past. So, when these sensations arise, as they will, draw attention to the breath. Feel the self stepping back in perspective and witnessing the sensation as it is occurring, witnessing the thought, witnessing what is, and simply calling it what is. Say to the self, this is what is. This is the content of the present moment. This is what is happening in life experience right now. And then just be there with it. Observe as it changes. Put your full focus upon it if it is present anywhere in the body. Focus on the feeling. Feel into that place. It's almost like engaging peripheral vision. It's a peripheral sort of sense. But you can engage that peripheral vision with intention. Yes, you can try it now. Engage your peripheral vision. You can focus in a peripheral way so that you are observing specifically that which is sort of happening on the edge. It's diffused, it's not direct in your field of view, but you become very aware of it, and it's a different kind of awareness. It's not so detailed, it is not so direct. It is an observational awareness of motion, of color, of a sense of proximity. That's the kind of feeling awareness you want to begin to use as you shift into focus on the body or focus on the environment, focus on sound. A peripheral awareness. Become very alert. There is a tremendous shift that has happened. Beyond that, there is nothing more really to say. It's a potent feeling of everything has changed. I was reminded immediately of 9/11. And that's not a harbinger of anything. That's not a warning. I'm not saying something like that is happening. It's possible or not. It's just that type of energy, that feeling of a collective shift, a collective rising in awareness, a change that everyone is aware affects all of us. A unifying force, even. A greater awareness of our collective self, that we are all in this together. It is that kind of sensation. And I'm going to pull cards on it because it feels right. That's it. There is a feeling in me that this feels right. It feels good, it feels satisfying, it feels pleasurable in and of itself. There is no greater purpose here other than to allow this moment to manifest fully as it desires to, and to be fully present for it, to allow whatever is to flow, and to allow what wants to flow through myself to flow through. So, without too much more preamble, I am going to simply pull cards and see what comes out. And I am pulling on the current energies. It's a broader scale, and it has to do with ego. There is the Burger King. In this case, it's just ego. Although curiously, I did, in just going through the aspects of what is happening astrologically right now, there is, I believe, a square between the Sun in Leo and Uranus in Taurus. And also, I believe Juno has moved into Leo, or is about to. And Juno, from what I recall, is responsible for the bringing together of soulmates, as well as other things, which really is the balancing of energy. It need not be any more fantastical than that. It is the balancing of energy between souls, we'll say. Ego has made a decision. There is a change here. It's become increasingly frustrated with itself, standing in its own way, and it has made a decision. We've been standing at the crossroads with this for a very, very, very long time. As a species, as humanity, we have been at odds with ego for centuries upon centuries. The decision is made. No more standing in our own way. No more questioning this. Time to stop thinking and start feeling. Ego has been cock-blocking itself in every capacity. I'm still going to use the words that are familiar to me because it feels right. There is great recognition and increasing recognition that ego is the cause of its own suffering. It is creating the suffering that it is then trying so desperately to escape, and in its desperation in escaping it, it's only generating more. Look at that. Taking control. This is a balanced emperor. This is not King of Wands emperor. This is the rest of the emperor viewing the King of Wands aspect in the self and saying, no more of that. No more running, no more hiding, no more lying, no more pretense, no more materialism. It's not that the world of form is to be rejected, but that's not where the satisfaction is found. Unless the satisfaction is found in the self, then there is nothing in this world of form that will satisfy you. It will forever disappoint. It's an endless journey of craving, seeking to fill this hole, never being satisfied, fleetingly satisfied. The only true satisfaction is found through the self, and it is found through surrendering this, through gaining awareness, knowledge of the self. That's what the self truly desires. That is what the masculine aspect truly desires, to know the self, to know the soul, which is the feminine, union within. That is what all of us at the core desire. It is the only thing we desire. It's just the confusion, the mistaken identification with the mind self, which then leads us to pursuing these things as objects in the physical world, which never works. The physical world, the world of form, is unstable. It is a world of change and continuous evolution. That's the way it's meant to be. But when you are basing your sense of self and your satisfaction on that which is forever fleeting, forever temporal, then of course your sense of self and satisfaction is forever fleeting. It is always in question. It's always on unstable, unsteady ground. It is always under threat. When the sense of self is returned to the source, derived from the source, when satisfaction is derived from the source of it, it's certain, it's absolute, it's direct. There is no question. There is no end. It's eternal, it's directly accessible, and it requires nothing. It is conditionless. In fact, all condition then becomes fuel for it, regardless of what that condition is, which is what makes it unconditional. It is not the absence of condition, it's the absence of the specifics. You do not require any specific conditions. As long as condition is, and it is, because all that is, and shall continue to be. And so as long as there is isness that is being, there is satisfaction. Satisfaction in the awareness of the being, pure joy of being, direct knowledge of self. We're taking control. What's underneath that? We're taking control. What wanted to show itself, transmuting this pain, transforming this pain. When we become aware that the suffering is all the creation of mental delusion, mental concept, pain, suffering, it's just an idea. It does not exist. It only is felt because the mind characterizes what is in such a way, it casts judgment upon what is in such a way that there is resistance to it. It says no. It says wrong, bad, unwanted. That judgment and the creation of the resistance from it is what creates suffering. It is not what is that contains pain. It is never the content of your life experience that causes pain. It's the resistance to it. Once this is realized, and it's realized that we have control over that resistance, we can drop the judgment, we can drop the characterization, the added mental layer that says no. Once you disidentify and separate yourself from that, you have all of the power. All of the power is restored to you. You feel yourself restoring to power, and you recognize there is no pain. There is no suffering. There is no problem. Nothing is ever a problem. It only is what is. It is the resistance to what is that generates suffering. When you recognize all of the resistance is balled up in this habitual mental pattern of the rejection of what is, the rejection of the present moment, the rejection of now and the content of it, in particular the rejection of your internal experience, not even so much what is happening without, but what is happening within. When you recognize your rejection of emotion, your rejection of thought, your resistance to those things is actually A, what generates the suffering, and B, what keeps them going, you realize you can simply stop. You can let them go. You can let go of the resistance to them. You don't need them to stop. You don't need the pattern to immediately cease suffering, to immediately cease the resistance to the pattern. Begin accepting it as simply what is in this moment. The mind is. The emotion is. Whatever habit it has been engaging in is. The only thing creating the suffering and so perpetuating the habit is the rejection of it, is the mental characterization, the additional mental layer that says this is a problem. That's the story, the illusion that keeps all of it going, and where all of the pain actually is bottled up. That's the layer of resistance, that you have the power in this moment and every moment to witness with your awareness, accept the isness of it, accept even that the mind has called this problem. It's not a problem that the mind has called this problem, it simply is. When you recognize what is simply is, and that's it, there is nothing else to it. Every other definition added is illusion. It is made up. It is not true. It's not real. It's just concept. It's total fantasy. All that is simply is. Anything else is illusion. Once you realize that, you have the power. You take control in the way that you can take control, the only way, and the only way that matters. And you transmute all pain by your witness of it as simply what is. It's not pain anymore. It's not wrong. The moment you cease calling it problem, the moment you cease your rejection of it, your resistance to it internally, is the moment it ceases hurting. Instantaneous lead into gold. I'm serious. You have the power to transmute everything like that. Transmutation is so called because of the magic of it, right? It's not a slow process. It is instantaneous, and it happens with the shift in your awareness, by the expansion of your awareness, specifically of the mind rejecting what is, specifically of the mind rejecting its own content, its own behavior. When you witness this and you realize you have the power, you are in control, you have the power to view even the mind's rejection as something that is not a problem. And so in your acceptance of the mind and the ego's rejection, you nullify it. You render that resistance void. It becomes immaterial. It evaporates, and so transmutes from this dense thing, such as lead, into the lightest thing, the least dense material, in this instance, gold. That is happening. This is incredibly powerful. This is the magician bookending ego, transmuting ego, and so relieving all pain. And it's gonna do it too. It's determined. It is steadfast. It's devoted. This is the energy of balanced masculine. Balanced masculine. It's devotion. It is championing, not fighting. Notice the subtle vibrational difference in the feeling of those words. The difference between being a warrior and a champion. The warrior goes to war. The champion upholds that which it knows, which it is devoted to. And it's not devoted because it wants to change. It's devoted because it knows the value, because it knows the joy directly of this thing. And in the championing of it, it can't be moved, it can't be shaken. It is demonstrating this. It is showing the way for all. What's on top? Yeah, the strength, there we go. To see beyond the prison of mind, to move beyond the prison of mind, to realize it's not a prison. You're never trapped. This always is the imagined prison, which is all that mind can ever do. The entire realm of mind is imaginary. It's made up. There's nothing real in there. None of it is real, including all of the voices saying you can't do this, or this is a problem, or you have to do this, or you shouldn't or should. None of that is real. None of it means anything. And you have the power, by disidentifying with the mind, by recognizing that's not you, that's literally a voice. That is a made-up voice in your head. It's not you. You don't have to believe it. Stop identifying with it. Realize it's the source of suffering, and all of the suffering it's created is made up. It's bullshit. It's illusion. It does not exist. The minute you cease identifying with the mind's resistance, by accepting it as what is, realizing that is your power, your greater power, your higher perspective, your awareness, your realization that even the mind's characterization of anything, first of all, the mind's characterization is what creates resistance. But even that is not a problem. Characterization of it as a problem is simply more of the mind making illusion, making up mind stuff. The moment you recognize the mind can do what it wants, it's not a problem, it simply is, and you include it in your acceptance of what is, you know your liberation, you know your power, you will feel the immediate transmutation of that. You will feel the lightness, the levity. And yes, the mind will re-engage, absolutely. Of course, it has momentum, it has inertia, it's been practicing this for some time. That's not a problem either. It's not. You just continuously remembering there are no problems. You continuously re-engage your awareness of what is and include the mind in that. It's just what is. All of this is just what is. There is nothing else. Something that is the cat wanting to come outside. The Hanged Man. That's powerful. It's deep. It's deep. It's new perspective. It is soul altering, life altering, consciousness altering perspective in this awareness. Yeah, that's a truth that is being wielded by the self. Once you realize this sword is in your hands, the sword of truth lives in you. Did you know that? The sword of truth lives in your heart. You have the power to wield it at any time. This truth cuts out all illusion. Once you have this knowledge, once you know this truth, the truth of your power, once you see it, you have real control. You recognize, you understand, you feel the invulnerability of absolute vulnerability, the actual power, the endless, undefeatable power of surrender, of acceptance. If you are at war with someone and you say, I surrender, and that person says, I do not accept your surrender, you say, I accept that you do not accept my surrender. I surrender to your rejection of my surrender. And they say, no, you can't surrender. I'm saying I don't accept it. And you say, I accept that you don't accept it. I allow, and you're free, you're liberated, you're no longer in that battle. It doesn't matter how much resistance is pushed against you. You just allow. And so, you cannot lose because you are not fighting. You cannot be defeated in a war in which you are not waging war. And you realize the absolute power and the absolute peace and pleasure of this. Cut the cards. Ace of Cups. Flowing. This is what it means to flow. To flow with the go, to go with the flow, to allow whatever is to be as it is. Specifically, importantly, including that which is within you, that which is arising within you. The emotional content, the mental content, simply witnessing, allowing it, accepting it as what is, giving it no further detail, no further definition, no further characterization. Don't even call it, at this point, we're expanding beyond the definition of emotion. Don't even call it anxiety. Don't even call it anger. If that definition arises in the mind, then witness that and accept it as what is, but you don't need to identify with it. Just let it be. Let it be what is. Experiment with that. What happens when you allow a sensation to arise within you and you don't name it? You don't identify it. This is a marked difference from the previous part of this journey, but it's the next step. It is the next step. Simply acknowledging what is and leaving it there leaving it at the isness. You can always accept what is. It is. Rejection of it is insanity. And the source of suffering, essentially. So, yeah. Whatever comes up, as overwhelming, as confusing as it might be, it's only confusing to the mind. Let it be. Let it be confusing to the mind. Accept that that is. You can always accept. You can always allow. You always have that power. And so you always end up on top by that. Oh, cards already are falling out. Okay, hang on. That's it then. Look at that. The Page of Pentacles. It's a lesson. This is a lesson. This is the lesson. It's the whole lesson. It's the only lesson that anyone ever needs to learn, that any of us really are here to learn. The lesson of acceptance, the lesson of the power of your surrender, the power of your conscious perspective, that in your deliberate awareness of what is and allowing it to be what is, and adding no further characterization to it, you are adding no resistance. In adding no resistance, you are generating no suffering. In generating no suffering, you experience peace. You experience joy. You experience life, your life experience, the way you intended for it to be, which is non-resistant, non-judgmental, fully accepting, allowing, flowing. This is breaking loose. And furthermore, you experience absolute freedom from fear when you are no longer adding the characterizations to what is, other than it is. There's nothing for fear to cling to. There is nothing to feel afraid of. It simply is. There is no problem. There is no threat. Those things are added mental abstractions. They're concepts, they're theory, they are imagination, they are not real. When you recognize the only truth of anything is that it is, you are tapped in tune, tapped, I like that word, with the fullness of your being, with the full awareness, the knowledge of yourself, of your wellness, your stability, your goodness. You feel it. You don't have to think it. Thinking's not knowing. You know it directly. And all fear is released. It can't even touch you. Even the feeling of fear within you, you recognize as ego, as mind self, as concept, as characterization. It's just made up mind stuff, and it doesn't matter. It's not a problem. It's just what is. In your acceptance of it as what is, it dissipates instantaneously. What's under this Page of Pentacles? Because I'm curious. Seven of Cups and the Ace of Cups reverse themselves. Emotional intellect, emotional intelligence, intuition, recognizing this is how intuition is accessed as well. This is how it works. When you are caught up in the mental abstraction, when you are identified with the mind self, and so riding that endless carousel, that Ferris wheel of resistance, of perpetually generating and resisting and regenerating the same emotions and the same types of thoughts that feed into those emotions, you can't access your intuition so clearly. You can't hear it as well because all of this other stuff is just in the way. It's on top. It's standing in front of. But you don't have to unclog those things. You don't have to get to the bottom of that. There is no bottom. That's part of the illusion. If you're trying to get to the bottom of your patterns, you will not find it. It is a bottomless pit. You cannot find the self through the mind. You cannot find healing in your searching into the wound. There's no healing there. Your healing is found in the release of the wound. The release of the wound is found in the expansion of your consciousness to the place of recognizing all of it is illusion. It's just the mind calling this wound, calling this problem that creates the resistance you feel and then experiences suffering. And then the mind says, we got to fix this. This is a wound. This is a problem. You see how the pattern is repeating right there? Right there. That's the linchpin. That is the linchpin. And you can pull that linchpin right now and the whole thing collapses by bringing awareness to it and recognizing this isn't a problem. It simply is. It simply is. That's it. It's a pattern, it's a habit, whatever. It just is. And it's not an issue, it's not a problem, it's not a flaw, and it's not keeping me from anything. You have the power. And the power is now. It's not future, it's not past. Right now. It's in the 3D. Justice. Fucking love that. You have the power. You are the judge and the jury. End the trial. Realize there is nothing here. There is no one to indict. The entire story, this defendant and prosecution are all made up. It's all just illusion. It's all a story. The perpetuation of the story is where the pain is recycling. You have the power now, by your witness of that, to simply stop perpetuating the story. And next time you even hear that story in your mind, you just accept that it's there. You stop identifying with it. When you're no longer identifying with it, you're not perpetuating it. You're not feeding your consciousness into it because you're not aligning with it and believing it. When you stop believing the made up shit in your head, it stops mattering. And so it can be there. The story of suffering can be there, but you're not believing it and not feeding it. You're accepting it as just is. It just is. It's just a part of what is. It is just further content of the now, and all that is simply is. It's not a problem. It just is. And so you've nullified it. You have transmuted it, and it will dissolve. What's in the soul? 3 of Pentacles. A new stable foundation in the self. Inside the self. This energy flows from 5D to 3D, and it results in justice in the 3D, which is divine energy, which is balanced energy, which is the dissolution of fear, the dissolution of resistance, the end of suffering. Self-awareness is self-assurance, true self-awareness, awareness of the self, not the mind self. When you dissociate from, when you realize the illusion of the mind-made self and all of its stories and all of its suffering, it's only the mind-made self that suffers, and it's made up. And really, it's only the mind's resistance to those mind-made stories that is, again, this linchpin of suffering. That's the key. That's where all of the tension is held. You accept the story as existing. It's not real, it doesn't matter, but it's there. That's fine. It just is. Now, you've done it. You've dissolved it, and you can begin building your consciousness and awareness and sense of self, building your identity from the soul, from the true self, as the authentic self, no longer buying into this mind-made illusion. Now you know who you are, and that foundation is unshakable. What's the hidden energy? I love it. I love it. The balanced emperor drives the chariot. It is determination. Yes, it's the card of the soulmate cycle. I don't feel that's particularly relevant to my interpretation of this, my feeling of this, but it's there. It's in the energy. It would be a lie to say that's not a component. this is just so much bigger. This is so much bigger. This is the rise of balanced masculine energy within the self, within all self, that is championing the self, championing the soul, working with the soul in a new way, in a determined way, in a way that gets there, that's not gonna stop. We see it now. We see we have the key. We have the power to release all resistance, to end the experience of suffering. When you create no more suffering in yourself, you are not creating any more suffering for any others. This is how we end suffering. By realizing it's an illusion. This is how we end pain, how we end unwellness. You see how this trickles down into everything? This is how we end poverty. This is how we end lack. All of it hinges on this. The recognition of the power of your awareness to perceive what is. Period. What is. When you stop adding the characterization to it, when you stop buying into those stories, all that is becomes restored to its purest form, to its essential form. It comes alive. It is restored to the fullness of life, to the fullness of being, which is pure, which is well, which is good, which is abundant, which is loved and loving. This is how we are transmuting reality into its highest form. This is how new earth, the new kingdom, comes to be. By this awareness and this practice, and it's taking place. What's in the final outcome position? I told you it's taking place. This is not about this self. This is about this experience and the transcendence of all consciousness. And I, for one, could not be more excited. Come on. Come on. It's the lovers. It's healing. It is reunion. It is unification. I'm not talking about the soulmate cycle, but of course that is a part of this. It inevitably is. It cannot be extricated from this, because this is core energy. I am pulling on core energy of consciousness right now. That's my focus. That's my intent. The internal energy within all self. And the internal energy of self is saying the balanced emperor is coming to claim the balanced empress. And we are doing this together, and we are not relenting. We have seen the truth. We know how to do this. We know how to build on this new foundation. We know how to deliver justice for the self. We know how to dissolve all resistance and sow all fear and all suffering. And the choice is made. The decision is made. That's what we do. No more. No more suffering. It takes a simple choice. It's a radical choice, but a simple one. And this is described in The Power of Now, which has been a profoundly transformative piece of literature for my experience of life and self and consciousness. And I highly recommend it to anyone. The choice is simple, and you make it now. This is the choice, the card of choice. I shall create no more pain for myself. I have the power to do that. I shall create no more suffering for myself. I shall no longer characterize anything as problem. I will call it what it is, which is. And in my witness of the isness of it, I offer no resistance. I create no suffering. And I connect myself to my power, to the power of being, which is powerful, peaceful, and pleasurable. I experience the joy of being. Once you taste that, once you realize your power, you don't go back. This is the only tool you ever need to reach the state of bliss, of peace, of ecstasy, of it. It ranges across the board. You don't need to feel bliss in every single moment, but you can feel peace in every single moment. You can feel contentment, absolutely, and it will range, it will expand, it will extend into ecstasy and return to satisfaction and a gentle, subtle sense of self that is just so peaceful and pure and certain and absolute, it's unshakable. And you have the power now and all now, which is the only time that ever is. There is only now to expand consciousness into this place, to let everything that is be fuel for your awareness. The isness of all things is all it takes, and all things are. And so all things, all conditions, simply by their being, provide fuel for your awareness of their isness, the expansion of your consciousness, the ability for you to accept what is, balance energy, and feel good. Feel good. I don't know if I even need to clarify this, to be honest, but I am going to, just briefly. Am I? Just briefly. Yeah, the transmutation of fear. It's all right here. The moon, the magician, look familiar. The Hierophant, Four of Swords, Hanged Man, also familiar. There's that Two of Cups. We can go further. The Five of Wands, Eight of Wands, Six of Wands, 10 Pentacles. It's all coming together. There's nothing standing in the way. There is nothing in the way. Nothing stands between you and yourself, your knowledge of self, your enlightenment. Nothing stands between you and enlightenment. You are enlightened now. Just realize it. I actually don't think I need to clarify. I'm going to clarify just a handful, not all of it, because this is pretty clear. Let's talk about the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles, which in this instance is a direct escalation as well, because the cards flow this way, from the 3 to the 4 to Justice. Tell me about this Four of Pentacles. Anything else here? Sure, there's fear attached. It's being released. It's being resolved. It comes to quite a certain significant resolve. Again, by the realization that fear is meaningless. It's just a word. It is just a word. It's a concept, perhaps, but really, it's just a sound. Fear. It's just a collection of noise. That's all it is. Fear is just noise. Problem, same thing. Problem. It's just noise. It's just a collection of utterances. It's meaningless. Nothing is problem. Nothing is fear. Nothing is threat. All of those are made up. It simply is. What did I just say? The end. The end. The dissolution of fear. It's not a problem. Once you realize this is not a problem, it ceases to be one. It's on top. Liberation. I fucking love the universe. I love this. I love you being here on this journey. You are free. You are liberated. Fear is not a problem. Threat is not a threat. It's made up. Once you realize that and you just accept this simply is, it's not fear, it's not problem, it's not threat, it's just is. All that stuff, added mental characterization. I am no longer identified with the mind. The mind can say what it wants. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. Once you realize that characterization is meaningless, it ceases to hold any meaning. It ceases to hold any weight. It bears no weight, carries no weight. It becomes insubstantial, immaterial. It is rendered null and void. And thus you are liberated from the prison of mind. Free. It's just free. And this is how you begin to view the world moving forward. It's restored to the time of innocence and wonder, when we still believed in magic. That energy that's followed me throughout this, that was the first key in all of this. It restores everything to a state of wonder, a state of excitement. That feeling of curiosity, knowing that nothing can go wrong. Literally nothing. It's not possible. That's made up. That is an illusion. When you drop that characterization of anything being wrong, it just is, then nothing can be wrong. Ever. You are free from that. You are liberated from all pain and suffering. This is the liberation of consciousness. This is the end of the cycle of karma. This is the end of samsara, the end of illusion. We're here witnessing it. We're bringing it about. We're doing this. We are ending suffering for consciousness. Hallelujah. This is the new age. This is the kingdom of heaven. This is the fifth world. This is, what do they call it? The white epoch? Energetically speaking, pure. It is the time that has been told of, that has been prophesized. It's right fucking now. It's now. This is the liberation of consciousness. Then there's the Six of Cups. There it is. Underneath, with that Knight of Cups. Yeah, there's other stuff coming in. I don't even care. I just don't. I don't. How could anything be more rapturous than the liberation of consciousness? Than witnessing this, described, felt, known. You're free. You're free. The world is free. Earth herself, Earth's consciousness is coming to this awareness. Do you understand? This can't be undone. This only goes forward. It's only this. It's only this. It's only this from now on. Realize there is no fear. There are no threats. There are no problems. There is only what is. There is only what is, and your acceptance of what is your key. It's your doorway. It's perpetual. This door is open, and it's always open. It is your key to liberation. The end of suffering. And you know it now. I don't think there's any more to say. There is not. I'm simply going to bask in this, honestly. Well, okay, I'll pull. If there's anything else the universe wants to say, because this is abundantly clear. Yes, everything will shift physically as a result of this. Of course, it has to. That is the law. But it's not the point. It's not the point. The point is the power is now. And the power that we exercise now in releasing identification of anything as problem, releasing resistance, lets it all just flow as it should be, to the highest good, and the highest good is the highest joy. Look at that. Makes this real. Makes this real. The release of fear, the transmutation of fear, this came back, brings about, turns the dream into reality. The only key that you ever need is the acceptance of what is. The acceptance of what is non-resistance. Non-resistance allows everything to balance, allows the free flow. When you are flowing freely in balanced energy, you feel good. And you have all the tools, because you can always see what is as what is. You can always step back and remove and drop the added characterization and just perceive it for the isness of it. In so doing, it is transmuted. It's on top, the star. Holy shit. This is, yeah, Page of Pentacles. This is the lesson. It's the only lesson. It's the final lesson. Do you understand that? This is the final lesson. It's just more this now. It's just the practice of this. This is how we manifest. This is how we do everything. By perceiving what is as what is. That's it. That's the key to happily ever after. To all the fulfillment. Wish fulfilled. I mean, literally. Literally. This is all it takes. Just this. And it's so simple. There are no problems. This is what I have written. There are no problems. There is only what is. And what is beautiful. Your perception creates reality. This is where it starts and where it continues forevermore. I've got nothing else. This is the whole message. This is what is. It's what is. And I accept it. I allow it. I embrace it with invigoration, with welcoming, with rejoicing. There are no words. It's celebration time. Well and truly. Consciousness is liberated from suffering. Now, not in a future date. No, we're not talking about something that could happen or might happen or will happen. It is. This is what is. The liberation of consciousness from suffering. No more suffering. Congratulations. And welcome home. It is such a rapturous delight to see you in full, in presence, here and now. Have a blissful day, my beautiful collective. I am so proud and so excited. And as always, does it need saying? I say it because I enjoy it. I absolutely adore you.